Mastermind. Very excited to have some high-level people on the line. And, Dr. Denise and I, when we started 8 Weeks to Wellness 10 years ago, we made a commitment that we were only going to deal with and associate with the best people and the highest quality products, and we kind of kept true to our word. So I want to welcome all three speakers to our mastermind, Dr. Barry Anderson, Dr. Trent Camp, and Dr. Jim Cambites, who all have million-dollar practices, and they're not just $1 million of services, they're $1 million collections, and I've seen their numbers, and they're quite impressive. And I believe they all have different skill sets that are going to come through on this call. So I'm going to start with Dr. Barry, if that's okay. Dr. Barry is going to be here at our office. I first met Dr. Barry a little over a year ago when I actually went through a boot camp, an Everest boot camp. And, I believe that 8 Weeks to Wellness is a higher dollar item. When you're trying to close an 8 Weeks to Wellness patient, you're not only trying to close them into chiropractic care, but you're also trying to include the lifestyle services that patient needs. And so I believe from an objection standpoint, it's even harder to close an 8 Weeks to Wellness patient because it's a higher ticketed item. Our average case, and I don't know what yours is, but we keep our stats pretty tight, but our average collections on an 8 Weeks to Wellness patient is over $6,000 in the first year of care. And Barry, you do a lot of coaching. I would say the average collections or case average, the average chiropractic patient is probably about $2,500. Is that about accurate?
That might be on a good day for a lot of guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, suffice it to say that it's, we're asking for a lot more. And also remember, 8 Weeks to Wellness is more of a cash-based model. We have a million dollar practice, and 65% of our collections in 2013 was cash. And as our buddy Brad likes to say, in the absence of value, cost is the only consideration. So when you're asking people to dig into their wallet or dig into their checkbook and write you a check for $2,700, they better perceive value in what you do. So I'm going to get started with this, and then towards the end, guys, I have a lot of items that I want to go over. We've gotten a lot of questions about the 8 Weeks to Wellness Challenge. We're going to cover that, the corporate program. I am so excited about the direction that I see. And Barry, maybe we can start on that if you don't mind. You work in centers where there's 4 different offices. Is that correct?
Yeah, right.
And you're blessed to have your own, delegated marketing person who I've had the opportunity to work with. And maybe you can share before we get started some of the things that are going on with the corporate program and what Brad, your marketing director, has said about it.
Yeah, our marketing director is just taking what you have. He's coupled that with the corporate skeleton key and just tearing it up. I mean, using the 8 Weeks to Wellness has been a huge in to get into. We got into the entire city that my office is in, and there's about 100,000 people in that city, and we have all of their employees that are going to be going through the challenge. We're getting into school districts with it. It's just been a huge thing to open up the doors. I mean, we've been doing corporate stuff for years, and after a while you hit everybody like, well, what do you have new for us? And we didn't have anything. And we love what you do, but you got to give us something new. And now since we've been incorporating the 8 Weeks to Wellness, all the old doors are opening back up, and it's just been a huge win. It's incredible.
Yeah, we have, to that end, Barry, I have an appointment on Monday with our HR director of our school district. We have over 1,000 teachers. We have the 5th largest school district in the state of Pennsylvania. And I sent her, I actually registered for the 8 Weeks to Wellness Challenge corporate program. She started going through it, and I sent her a testimonial. She is so fired up about the program, so I'm excited for that meeting. And, I've been dealing with them for 4 years doing basically, the teacher in-service training, and now we have an opportunity to really kind of dig in deeper with a better relationship. So I'm really excited about that. And again, guys, true to our word, when I met Barry and went through the Everest 2-day boot camp, I saw some real holes in our game, if you will. Denise and I sat down, and I remember specifically, Barry, when I came back from boot camp, I sat down with Denise and with Jerry, and I said, hey, guys, we got some work to do. And one thing that you taught me, Barry, which I absolutely love, and we've added this to our statistics, is keeping our closing percentage. And, I was shocked when I went back 3 months after I got back from boot camp, And I not only looked at our new patients, and we keep them pretty accurate. We keep an accurate list of not only new patients, but where they came from, who did their exam, because we have 4 doctors in our practice. And when I started looking at our closing percentage, literally who closed into 8 weeks to wellness or into a 3-month care plan, which is our starting point. We don't like to do per visit care plans, but we were only about 50% of closings, and I know you're at 94%. So that was I think, again, what gets measured gets managed, and if you're not looking at something, you certainly don't know that it's an issue or a problem. So maybe speak to that a little bit. First, Barry, is why is it so important to know that number of how many of your patients are literally closing into care?
Well, that's the only way you can know if your marketing's number one, if your marketing's actually working, and where to put your marketing dollars. I mean, if you can go out and be one of those guys that stands at the mall and begs people to come in, and then nobody shows up, and you wasted an entire day of your life, and who knows what you paid for the booth fee or whatever. And to me, that's just a waste of time, energy, and money. It's nice to know, if you know where you're getting them from, are you able to close them? And also, when you break it down into, are they cash patients, are they insurance patients, you can break it down even further to find out where your weakness is. You might be a tremendous closer of people with Blue Cross Blue Shield with 90% coverage, and then you get that cash patient in and they're not closing, and then you look at your numbers, and maybe you've got, say, a 70% close rate total, which is awful, but let's say you've got that, and 50% of them or 60% of them are insurance, or all 70% are insurance, and you didn't close any cash. Well, then now you know where your hole is. You don't know how to close a cash patient. Then you've got to figure out, how do I learn how to do that? Because, as you know, that's where we're heading. Cash is going to be right around the corner for everybody. And so you've got to figure out, what am I closing, and then where am I getting them from, and what case type is that, so I know how I need to strengthen what my ability and what I'm doing.
So that leads me right into my next question, Barry. I totally agree with you, and I would say if you can close your cash patients, particularly into 8 weeks to wellness, I think that's a very good objective sign that you're doing a good job with your day 1 and day 2. So with that in mind, you deal with so many chiropractors in day 1, day 2, and the ones that can and can't close. Why do you think so many chiropractors struggle with the cash patient in terms of closing them into care? I mean, give us some real feedback, what chiropractors can look at it to plug those leaky holes in their day 1, day 2.
Well, part of the problem is, before I get into that, is they don't know how to do it. I mean, nobody's taught anybody how to close. Unfortunately, chiropractors think, if I just give them enough spiz, and I give them enough of the green books, hopefully they're going to buy from me. And there's no way you're going to change, and I shouldn't say it as an absolute, but really you're not going to change someone's paradigm belief system that they've held for their entire life, that was taught to them by their parents, because for 15 minutes you told them about the green books and power of chiropractic. It's silly, and it doesn't work. And the reason I know it doesn't work is because we see 2% of the population. 10 years ago, 2% of the population. 20 years ago, 2% of the population. Everyone keeps thinking, if I give them is they're buy from me. And that's not why people buy. And so, unfortunately, we start out on the wrong foot. We're moving them down a path they may not be ready to go down. So I always say, sell them what they want while educating them on what they could have, and that way they're going to stay engaged with you. And you must, and I'll get into this if I have time, must know the first law of selling, which is going to an agreement. But the other problem is chiropractors oftentimes have an issue with money, and they just give it too much power. And when money is basically, it's just a piece of 6-inch paper, and you're just exchanging it for something of value. And I always tell chiropractors, they get hung up on what they should charge and everything. Let's say you're 8 weeks to wellness. Let's say you got a guy that's going to cut you a check for $3,000 up front. And then if you have, as the chiropractor, someone gives you $3,000, how long do you actually have that money for? I mean, you might have it for an hour.
Right.
You might have it for a day. You might have it for a week. Who knows? But there's a very short lifespan of that $3,000 they gave you as a chiropractor. But if you look at it from another angle, what did you give that patient? See, the trade is so lopsided because what you gave that patient lasts them a lifetime. So it's absolutely 100% impossible to charge too much for what we do, because everything we're doing has a short time frame, a week or two for the money they gave us, and they're getting a lifetime benefit of what we do for them. I don't know how we could ever think we charge too much.
I agree. And, you know, to your point, Barry, I think is really well taken, is that I truly believe in a lot of the chiropractors that I deal with, they have this poverty consciousness, not just with money, but with their perception of the value that they give to their patients. So they just don't think that they're worthy enough. They give enough adjustment. That, you know, that the patient really is going to get value for what they're asking. And you know, I know that to be true in talking with a lot of chiropractors. So I think some people literally do need to kind of brush up on their adjusting skills, you know, brush up on their communication skills, maybe start to add some services that are truly going to deliver on the promise. Because Barry, you know, if we're asking for something, you know, we better be able to deliver on that promise of what we're promising the patient, or, you know, our word is going to be short-lived with our patients, and that gets out real quick.
Sure. Yeah.
So, if you know, and I always try to think of it, Barry, in terms of if I were on the line, if I were one of these doctors, or truly for myself, you know, if a chiropractor is on the line and they truly want to understand one of the things that they can do to get better, and I'll give an example. When I was at boot camp, one of the things that you did that was very different than most other seminars, you made us get uncomfortable, and you made, I never forget the one chiropractor you brought up, and you tore him a new ass, you know what, but you know what, you exposed him. And this was supposedly a very successful chiropractor, but you really exposed some weaknesses in his games and his communication. So for me, I think one of the best things that I got at boot camp is how important it is not just to have these concepts in my mind, and I think a lot of chiropractors don't even have them in their mind. They don't even know that they don't know, but how important it is to be able to, you know, kinesthetically communicate, because so much of communication is nonverbal, and you may think, oh yeah, that sounds like a really good concept, or that question's very easy to pose to a patient, until you go and pose that question, you recognize that, wow, that didn't come out well, and the way you term it, Barry, is the bullshit meter. You know, it comes out, and guess what? The patient ain't buying it because of the way that you present it. So, you know, besides, you know, role-playing some of the really important concepts of day one and day two and questions, you know, what are some things that chiropractors can do right now?
Okay, I'll give you a few ideas, and then I'll give you an example. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Cool. The first thing, and this is the example I'm going to end up giving you, is you must go into an agreement with patients. It's imperative that you go into an agreement with someone, even if they're saying something that is completely stupid and wrong. And you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. Also, when you get to the close, in terms of the finances, you've got to have multiple close options, but they've got to be presented in a proper way so that it doesn't confuse the matter. And oftentimes, our options for close are very confusing, which makes someone say, well, let me go home and think about it. And if you hear that, you've added confusion or questions, and that's why they want to leave you. You also want to make sure you treat them like they can. Oftentimes, we prejudge the patient, and that's a huge mistake. You can't do that. So I always tell people, what you want to do is you do what you do, your fees are your fees, your recommendations are your recommendations. It doesn't matter if they have money, don't have money, looks like they have money, doesn't look like it. None of that matters. Treat them like they can. And if you do that, you're going to find more people will do it than you ever had. The other thing is you want to care so much that you refuse not to close them. Because understand, if you don't close that patient into chiropractic, you know who you closed them for? You closed them for the medical doctor. So, you know, everyone on this call is 100% closer. The problem is some of you are closing them to keep seeing the medical doctor. Some of you are closing them to keep taking pills. Some of you are keep closing them just to wait. You can't do that. You must close them into chiropractic care because their life depends upon it. And so, real quick, I'll go into the agreement thing. Oftentimes what chiropractors do is they want to fight with the patient because right in the beginning, because the patient will come in with an incorrect paradigm or belief system on the day one. And the chiropractor thinks it's his job right now to change that system or that belief system, and that's incorrect. You'll just go into agreement with them. It's really like this. I'm getting set up on a blind date. And the girl spends 2 hours getting ready to go on this date. She's putting on her makeup. She thinks she looks great. She can't wait to get in the car. And she gets in the car, and I say, damn, you're ugly. I mean, where am I going to ever get with this girl? I broke a basic premise. I broke an agreement. She thought she looked good, and I told her immediately she didn't. So we do that with our patients. They come in on day one. They don't know the green books. They don't know the power of chiropractic, and we browbeat them for not understanding that. And we wonder why they don't buy from us. It doesn't make sense. And so you want to go into an agreement with them, and then it's only then that you can then keep them kind of what I say, bringing them up the ladder to where they'll ultimately buy it from you. But if you don't go into an agreement with them, they'll fight you because whoever wants to hang around with someone that they don't get along with, there's no bond there, so you can't have that. And so even when someone's putting up a resistance, I'll just give you a quick example because I know you don't want me going on forever, but if someone says to you, I want to go home and talk to my wife after you present the money, at this point, a lot of chiropractors, they don't know what to do, and they'll go into a retreat. So what you want, and they'll let them leave. You can't do that. Remember, when these things come up, I always go into an agreement with the patient. So if a patient said to me, I want to go home and talk to my wife before I give you $3,000, I would say, I agree, and you should. But if your wife is anything like mine, she never tells me no when it's something I love or actually need. And I do the same thing for her. So do you think she's going to say no to you finally getting rid of this problem so that you can work and play with your children and finally take that trip you guys have been putting off because of your back? Do you think she's going to say no to that?
No.
And now what we agreed with them, but it allowed us to keep the process going. And the patient would say, well, I don't think so. And then I just go right into, well, then let's get started. So it's real easy if you can keep the deal going as long as you agree with them. But if you go into a disagreement, they won't buy from you.
Such a great point. And I love the point that you make, Barry, about, meeting people where they are, and then kind of bringing them up the ladder of what they potentially could have. So sell them what they want while showing them what they possibly could have.
Right.
So that's just awesome. And what I would recommend is that everybody, if you haven't been to boot camp, you need to get there, guys. I mean, think about it. What I said earlier, and Barry runs into this a lot with objections. Boot camp is a little bit pricier than most two-day programs, but it's all perceived value. After I went to a boot camp, I would have paid double, triple what I know now. And we've had a return on our investment just in the percentage of people we've been closing, particularly into 8 Weeks to Wellness. So I would say if somebody asked me, what are some of the important tenets of a successful chiropractor, one of the things that are going to be at the top of the list is going to be communication skills and being able to do an effective day one, day two. If it's not the thing that's at the top of the list, and Barry, kudos to you because I don't know if I've ever met anybody that's more skilled in terms of communication, of getting people to understand the importance and the value of what we bring as a chiropractor to that relationship with the patient.
Well, thanks, Dane. I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you.
Thank you, buddy. So, guys, that was worth the whole mastermind right there. And recognize that I asked Barry to come. He's coming in a couple weeks to train our centers because I want you guys to be effective day one, day two. I want you to be able to close. This is really, really important stuff. So, to have people like Barry and to have people like Brad on our team, these are guys that are in practice doing it. I've been to their practices. I know what they're doing. It's just awesome stuff. So I'm going to turn now to two seasoned chiropractors, Dr. Trent Camp and Dr. Jim Cambites. And guys, you can both, Trent, you can hear me okay?
Gotcha.
All right. And Jim?
Yep.
All right. And the reason that I asked them to be on the webinar today is because, and I'm getting a little bit of feedback from somebody, but we'll just keep going here. So the reason I asked them to be on the call is because they both have million-dollar practices, and I've got to know them over the past few years while they've been distributors. And what I can tell you with absolute certainty is there's no bullshit about either one of these two gentlemen. Like I said, I've gotten to know them both pretty well, and I'm very impressed with how humble they are as human beings, but also how sharp they are as chiropractors. They're not into hype. They are hard workers, and the success of their practice is, to me, is the effect of who they are as people. So I want people on the line to get to know them. So I put together some questions that I think are perfect questions to really bring out what makes a successful chiropractor, not just in terms of 8 Weeks to Wellness, but how do you become a leader of your practice? Instead of what I feel is most chiropractors are doing is they're wearing multiple hats. They work in their practice, not on their practice. They don't lead their people. They let the inmates run the asylum. I want you guys to really understand that the reason that they have million-dollar practices is because they're effective leaders. So I'm going to start off with the first question. And Trent, I'm going to pose this question to you. Is that what do you feel like some of the qualities are of a very successful chiropractor?
a very successful chiropractor?
A successful chiropractor, has a strong sense of purpose. I mean, I think a strong sense of purpose and a certainty about their purpose that's unwavering. We always say the person with the most certainty wins. Your last segment was about having that conversation with the patient, and essentially you're trying to save their life and they're trying to go about continuing to kill themselves. And if you have certainty that you have a product that will save their lives, how hard are you going to try to sell, position, convince, or whatever language you want to use, them to purchase your product? Because literally you're giving them an opportunity to save their own lives. So it's
how does a chiropractor develop more certainty to that end?
I think you got to have tools to do that. The subluxation station, the biomarkers that we use with 8 Weeks to Wellness, all of those things. I can really remember back when I was first out of chiropractic school. We took X-rays on the first visit, did an exam, and then went through the motions for a few months. How are you feeling? Great. I'm glad you're feeling better. That was kind of our certainty. That's how we knew things were getting better. But it was bullshit, because the people that weren't getting better left. So and the people that got better left. So you were basing your sense of certainty on false promises or parameters, which I think is the reason why chiropractors burn out.
And then you were about to talk about sense of purpose.
About what, sir?
I think you were going to talk about the sense of purpose, you said, too?
Well, the sense of purpose and certainty about it. I mean, listen, guys, if your purpose in life is nothing more to alleviate pain, you're no good than a Tylenol. I mean, until you get to the level that you save lives, I don't think you've really discovered your true purpose yet. To have a purpose that's only about survival, I mean, that's what street bums have. That's what beggars on the corner have. All they're worried about is the next day, tomorrow. And there's so many chiropractors that function on that level, where their concerns about tomorrow, or how am I going to pay bills next week, or how am I going to get through the next day. Your purpose has to be bigger than that. Your purpose has to be about saving lives. And there's a lot of transition. There's a lot of transition between the first and the second. But I think the highest evolution of a chiropractor is when he says with certainty, I can save your life.
That's awesome. Thanks, Trent. So this next question I'm going to ask to you, Jim, because I know you were part of the Master Circle, and you've been in practice for a real long time. You've been around a lot of chiropractors. What do you think are some of the more common mistakes that you see in struggling practices and struggling chiropractors?
One of the things I heard early on in our career was matching your passion with your paycheck. And, I think about, when I go into a bookstore, or when I wake up in the morning, or what does my brain wander to? And we had a seminar once with the Winner's Circle, and a guy was talking about, watch your kids. What do they gravitate towards? What do they just go to? What do they love to do without anybody telling them to do that? And I think for me, and I think for successful chiropractors, and even 8 Weeks to Wellness chiropractors, is the reason that your program, and the reason why I think our practice is successful, is because this is my passion. I live it every day. I think about, what am I eating? When am I getting my exercise in? My meditation, calming the mind. And that energy and that enthusiasm bleeds through with everyone that you're talking to. And people can sense that. I know when I walk in a room and I'm doing a report of findings or meeting a new patient or whatever, I can just tell when I have eye contact with them and I'm smiling at them and they're smiling back, it's like they're taking this deep sigh, and not to be egotistical, but they're taking this sigh that, okay, I'm in the right spot here. And we haven't even talked yet. So people can sense and know that this person's going to help me, I'm in the right spot, and after that, basically you can't screw it up.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Jim, because I really feel that people can sense your energy, and like I said, most communication is nonverbal. So I think people can sense your insecurity. I think people can sense if you're bullshitting them, if you are making a promise that in your heart you're not delivering on. So I think your point is really well taken. So I'm going to ask this question to both of you, because I've seen the transition of both of your practices from what I would consider a high-level family wellness-based chiropractic practice to now a high-level wellness practice. So again, I kind of position it that you either have a chiropractic practice that offers wellness, or you have a wellness practice that offers chiropractic. And I truly, and I know that you both believe that subluxation has a cause, and we have a moral responsibility to not only address the subluxation, but we have a more obligation to, address the environment that created the subluxation, and 8 Weeks to Wellness is truly the vehicle to do that. So, what I'm seeing, and guys know that I speak to all of you on a regular basis, I see the biggest obstacle is that a lot of chiropractors have a very hard time embracing that change. They are so comfortable with doing things the way that they've done them because that's the known, that's what they know. And one of the things I admire both of you guys, if you embraced 8 Weeks to Wellness, not only in your own personal lives, not only with your staffs, but you really have successfully managed to make that transition into a full wellness practice. So Trent, talk to me about what you went through, how in your mind and in your dealings with your staff, also writing checks to obviously, you had that faith to put in that fitness center that you put in that's absolutely stunning. How did you go through that process?
Well, to me, I like to use analogies a lot, and to me it's like a dentist that doesn't promote brushing teeth. Being a chiropractor, fixing the problem after the problem develops without doing anything to get at the cause, it should be considered malpractice. It really should be. And then to find an effective tool to address the cause of subluxation. I searched all over the place before finding 8 Weeks to Wellness and did some other programs that really were draining and mentally and physically and financially draining before 8 Weeks to Wellness. But I think 8 Weeks to Wellness should be mandatory for every chiropractor just because you're addressing the cause of subluxation. You're addressing the physical, emotional, and the chemical side of it. And to not offer that, does every one of my new patients come in do 8 Weeks to Wellness? No. Do we tell them about it? Yes. Do they have an opportunity? Yes. And I've seen it now. We've been open about a year. People hear it when they're ready to hear it. People come back 9 months later and said, I'm ready for that now. I'm tired of struggling. I'm ready for it now. So we never shut a door. We always leave the door open because we never know where they're at in their life and when they'll be ready to accept it. But to me, it completes me as a chiropractor. To do chiropractic without it is like doing dentistry without promoting brushing of the teeth or oral care. Imagine if dentists just waited till people had their tooth hurting before they came in. And that's the model 90% of the chiropractors practice, and quite frankly makes me sick.
And Trent, just touch real quick. I know Audra is a vital part of your practice, your office manager, and I was so impressed with not only that you embraced the program, the changes that you made in your own personal life, and to be honest, I get tingles thinking about that because damn you look better than me now, which isn't supposed to happen.
I like giving you tingles.
Yeah. But talk about Audra just for a second, because I feel like a lot of chiropractors are trying to infuse the passion into their staff, and some of the staff aren't open and receptive to it.
Well, the staff that aren't open and receptive to it, get rid of the staff. You can't have anchors. You've got to have people that lift you up. It doesn't mean a staff person won't have a bad day or you won't have a bad day, but overall the staff has to be on board. Every one of my staff members has done it. My wife's done it. My daughter's done it. When it is your purpose, how can you have people that don't participate in your purpose as part of your staff? So, pretty much told them their choice is to embrace it or to leave, and it didn't even have to go there. They embraced it. I'll tell you a short story real quick. Audra did the 8 Weeks to Wellness program before we even had our training center open. She went and joined a local gym. When we finally got the training center open, the rest of the staff were so excited about doing the program, they couldn't wait to start doing the program. And so when it came time for them to do the program, there was some cost involved because it's expensive for me as a doctor to offer the program to them. So we told them the cost, and they went about trying to figure out how to raise the money to do that. We let them do that for about 2 or 3 days, and they both had come up with about half the money. I think it was $1,700 we were going to charge them, something, just to cover some costs. And on the third day, Dr. Chaz and I looked at each other, and we both personally wrote checks for them to do the program. So that's how on board my staff was. That's how much they wanted to do it. They were willing to pay for it themselves, literally. And that's the level of engagement I demand.
That's awesome. Jim, let me turn to you. Is there anything that you want to add in addition to what Trent said, or was there anything in your transition process that you felt was really, really important?
Well, I just think that, my biggest thing, Dane, you and I talked years, probably 5 or 6 years before I even did the program. That's how long I knew about this. And I thought at first, this is something I can do. I've used the Metagenics products for a long time. My master's degree is exercise physiology and nutrition. I thought, well, I can put this together. But your program was so complete. When I came out to Philly, I go, man, this is turnkey. And, before I even bought the program, just like people buy us, as soon as I heard you speak, I go, God, I love this guy. This guy, not to be egotistical again, but he talks like me, sounds like me. And I really bought you and Denise first, and then your whole support team that you guys have. And again, it's so systematized, it was easy to implement into our practice because the chiropractic part was already going. Like I had said for years, is you could adjust people, and I can get rid of headaches, and I can help with low back and carpal tunnel and things like that. But I saw people coming into my practice that were on 3 and 4 and 8 meds, and they're very overweight and obese. And I go, if I'm going to truly help this person and help them to the extent that I want to help them, I've got to put a gym in, I've got to teach them how to eat correctly, I've got to teach them how to meditate, all those things. And the success that we're having, everybody gets success that comes through the programs. We have pictures on the wall of before and after pictures, and we've taken it on TV, and it's unbelievable the response that we get from people. Everybody that hears the message, I just did a talk last night, everybody that hears the message, 98% of them buy the program, because once they hear the message, you can't go back.
That's awesome. And then, just because I know both of you personally, and one of the things I admire about both of you is just how committed you are to your families, and that you haven't lost yourself in the process of not only having a successful practice, but really having a successful life. So maybe I'm just going to ask both of you, and this is more for me, maybe this question is more for me. I want to know, what do you do to keep yourself well-balanced so that not only you can say, hey, yeah, I do have $1 million great practice, but guess what? I have $1 million life. I have $1 million family. And Trent, I'll start with you.
Well, I use a couple of different things. One of them, Dane, is I definitely delegate. Delegate and trust. And my rules for delegation are, if somebody can do it as 90% as well as I can, I'm going to delegate. There's so many things I can do better than stuff I delegate, but I'm willing to lose 10% for the efficiency of sending it out somewhere else. The other thing is, on my phones, around my desk, and anywhere I have a calendar, I have a little Post-it note that says MTV. And MTV stands for My Time's Valuable. So when a buddy calls and says, hey, do you want to go fishing Friday? My immediate thought is, yes, I'd really love to go fishing. But then Friday comes around, and I was like, you know what, I really wish I wouldn't have committed to this. So I've learned to say no a lot, and that's okay, because then I have more time to do things that I want to do. So MTV and delegate are my big two things.
Just to build on that real quick, I realized early on in practice, and actually maybe probably not as early as you did, Trent, but I recognized I could either be a really good golfer or I could be a really good chiropractor and dad. And I didn't make that switch till a little bit later. I was a good golfer for a while. I had a single-digit handicap, but it was influencing the other two things in my life. And I finally recognized that you only have bandwidth for so many things in your life, and so you've got to have priorities. And to me, it's God, family, chiropractic, and and when I dedicate my time to those things grow and flourish. So your point is so well taken, Trent. I really appreciate you bringing it up. And Jim, is there anything that you want to add to that? I mean, what do you do to stay balanced? Because I know you just have a beautiful family as well.
Yeah, I mean, I always think about what's the most useful use of my time right now, and it's like when I'm in the clinic, is it patient time or paper time? When it's patient time, let's go, let's knock it out. And when it's paper time, I'm going to do the same there. And I think scheduling, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I'm here longer days, and then Tuesday, Thursday are shorter days. So I'm driving my one kid to school on Thursday morning, driving my other two kids to school on Tuesday mornings. Tuesday and Thursdays are hockey time. I'm big into hockey and lacrosse, and I coach my 3 kids hockey. And, we travel a lot together, and, even now it's spring break time, and after this call I'm going to go home and spend some time with my kids. And so it's really structuring the practice around helping people, but also making sure that I do have that balance, because that's the biggest thing that I saw with a lot of successful businessmen and people, was that I noticed that, yeah, you could have a great practice and you could be making a lot of money, but I saw a lot of guys that were having health disorders, heart disease and cancer, and they were in divorce situations, and there was a lot of family breakup. And I go, I don't want that. I want to be well balanced in all areas. So I get up at 5, get my workouts in before I get to practice, and then I structure those other things that I've talked about for family time also.
And one of the great quotes that I think kind of embodies what you just said, Jim, is, I don't work for my practice works for me. And, and so you've got to have those priorities set ahead of your practice life to make sure that you're really addressing those other really important issues and responsibilities in your life. So, one thing I want to point out, guys, is Dr. Trent's going to be speaking at the May 2 Day. Dr. Trent's going to be speaking at the May 2 Day. Still getting that echo. I apologize. And Trent and Jim, if you guys don't mind, just maybe I don't know if you can mute your microphone, but I think that may be where the echo is coming from. But I want to let you know that Trent's going to be speaking at the May 2 Day, and I'm really excited about his talk. We have a great 2-day training coming up. So now I need to take care of some housekeeping items, and I just want to personally thank Dr. Trent and Dr. Jim for being on the call. I think you guys now realize why I wanted to interview them and why they're such not only great chiropractors, but they're great human beings, and I just love you guys to pieces. So appreciate you being on the line and sharing with us. So what I'd like to do now, guys, is what I'm recognizing in coaching. We start the group coaching calls next week. I'm starting to put together a curriculum for that. But there are so many resources that you guys aren't availing yourself to. And again, I think to make your time valuable and to really understand what's important, I want to go over some of the things that I think that you should know about if you don't know about it, and not only knowing about it, but making sure that you're utilizing it. And the first thing is I'd like to touch on this. I'm going to have Denise chime in as well. But make sure you're using the 8 Weeks to Wellness for Doctors site. Sometimes I know you guys aren't using it properly because some of you ask me, how do I get into it? And that's, Houston, we have a problem if you don't know how to get into the sites. So everybody has a username and password. You're looking at it. One of the great things about this site now, and having people like Dr. Trent, having people like Dr. Jim, some of the very successful chiropractors that we have in our program, is that they are helping. One thing Trent always says, and I just can't love him enough, but we never hang up the phone without Trent saying, Dane, how can I help you? What can I do for you? He's always there. So, one of the ways that you're going to help is by making this program better, that we're all going to give our input as to what's working and what's not working so that we can refine this process. We've created this website as a training resource, to have, multiple presentations, any type of document that you may need in reference to a new patient. And it's not just for 8 Weeks to Wellness. We have documents in here. Like one of the things, I'm just going to make some examples here, but one of the things I love is our pre and post huddles. And Dr. Denise will tell you in the module B of the bottom here, we have our pre and post huddle sheets. We do a huddle pre and post every single shift. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that we 90% of our time hit our goals, and we're always setting goals in terms of our shift. Who's coming in as a new patient? How many chiropractic visits do we have scheduled? How many training visits? How many massages? Who do we want to speak to about the corporate program? Who do we want to speak to and give literature about a lunch and learn? So if you're not prepared when you start your day, then the day is going to be kind of hectic and crazy. But if you know what's coming at you, especially when you have a busy practice, you can manage that better. So make sure you're availing yourself to some of these resources.
Yeah, I was just going to add that even in the huddles, when we see a new patient, we absolutely know where that new patient was referred from. So we're never fumbling with words as soon as we walk into the new patient. We're like, Mary, we are so glad you were referred by Jim. He is such a wonderful patient. So, and we know where they came from, and we even have a sense of if they're a wellness patient or a pain-based patient, because the CAs take really, really good notes in ChiroTouch, so we know what we're walking into as well.
And so some of the other things, guys, recognize, and many of you probably don't even know this, but we've formed a relationship now with LabCorp. So LabCorp on the corporate side, but also for your practice, we've gotten a really good cash price for our 8 Weeks to Wellness blood work. It's $135. So all of you have access, and you have LabCorp in your back pocket to down the road do corporate stuff, to do a metabolic syndrome screening, but also to do your 8 Weeks to Wellness blood work as well as other blood work. We have a male hormonal profile, a female hormonal profile that we've set up, and also a thyroid panel. So you have access to all of those things. And if you're interested, you have a wellness, a LabCorp setup form that you need to fill out. And what happens when you fill this out and fax it back, LabCorp will set up a corporate account for you, and they will send you the requisite forms, and that will be the form that you hand to the patient. Again, if the patient has insurance, LabCorp will bill that for them. If they don't, that you need to make sure that you let that patient know that the lab work is $135. LabCorp is going to bill us, guys, our corporate account. We will bill you, and you will bill the patient. So we now have that resource available to you, so nobody can say, I can't find the lab, I can't do the lab. So that's one resource that's really important. Okay. Obviously, the 8 Weeks to Wellness orientation, again, many of you don't know this, but we've added the feature, and we got this from Tony, that a lot of times many of you are doing your 8 Weeks to Wellness orientations every 2 weeks, or some of you feel that you're not there yet in terms of your speaking abilities. So we have the email that we send out now with the orientation linked to it, so that if a patient, let's say that we've done an orientation on Thursday night, a patient comes in on Friday, is hot, they want to do 8 Weeks to Wellness, we're not going to wait. We're going to send them that orientation video right away, at least to have them watch that so that they can develop some interest, so they can see this program's for real, so they can learn about it, and then maybe then they come to the live orientation. If they can't make the live orientation, that's going to serve as their orientation. Then we will set them up for a new patient evaluation. So remember, we always say there's two things that need to be completed before somebody starts 8 Weeks to Wellness. One is they need an orientation. Well, now that could be a live orientation, or that can be an orientation that they watch from the comfort of their own home. The next thing that they need is they need a new patient evaluation with their wellness score done in our office.
Right, and when I recorded the orientation, I recorded it from your perspective. So, you know, you're watching this video because you're 8 Weeks to Wellness doctor, so on and so forth. So I'm not recording it from my perspective from Newtown, Pennsylvania. So you should feel very comfortable sending out that YouTube link and sample email to your patients.
As far as the new patient paperwork here, I don't really think there's anything new here, but what I always recommend is part of your staff meeting should be going through this site and really kind of knowing this site. So I think it's really important. Like, you know, one of the things that we just added was our membership program. So we already have over 20 people signed up since January for our membership, and that's what we enroll people in after 8 Weeks to Wellness. Well, we added that as a resource. Many of you don't even know that we have that flyer or that brochure on there of exactly how our membership program runs.
Do you know where that is?
I do. I'll get to it in just a second. Yeah.
And this is really something very new that we're doing, as many of you more seasoned 8 Weeks to Wellness doctors know, that we had the graduate programs with 4 different graduate levels, bachelor's, PhD, master's. Well, we are really transitioning to this membership program so that when someone graduates, they're signing up in our office. We charge $199 for a 6-month commitment to a membership program to our fitness center. And then we offer them a 20% discount off all additional services they purchase. So, of course, we come up with the care plan we want them to follow for chiropractic and massage. But what's beautiful about working in cash practice is now that we can set up auto debits for all of those things. And it keeps the patient coming for months on end as opposed to 1 month at a time. In addition, it keeps us in control of their care plan versus them in control of their care plan if they're just buying units per se. So the membership has been really, really nice because typically a patient's not going to come in more than twice a week. So we're up to about 15, maybe 20 memberships. We are, for those of you that have come to our office, we're knocking down the wall into the yoga room, so we're expanding our space. But there literally have been hours back there where we have 20 people working out at the same time. So the goal, of course, in your fitness center is volume, and the membership programs are going to increase this. So there's still a lot of doctors that your patients are completing the program and they're not continuing in your fitness center. So that doesn't make any sense to me. So you have to create that value after the program. And in addition, this really, really pushes the cash portion of your program. If you're billing at all for the exercise portion with the 97110, and you can do that legally and ethically because of what you document on their initial exam, after 8 weeks you should feel very comfortable getting them off their insurance and into a cash-based program.
And so this has taken too much time to pull up, guys, but you know, I just calculated, you know, 20 people at $199 a month. That's an extra $50,000 worth of revenue. without having to do anything different, because they come in, they have a scripted workout, but it's not like the trainers are working them out. They already know after 8 weeks to wellness or after our 3-month care plan how our fitness center works. They know the exercises. They have the trainer there to guide them. So we're trying to think outside the box. And every time we think outside the box and we come up with a good idea, we're sharing that with you through these trainings and also through the websites. And maybe many of you aren't availing yourself, there it is, availing yourself to this. So this is a brochure that you can take and knock off. You can add your office, you can add your information. And I can't tell you how many resources there are like this on this website that you can avail yourself to. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but I will touch on the marketing because I think this is huge as well. We've developed a TV commercial, and many of you have asked for that and are turning that over to your local stations to use that as a platform to create your own commercial. We have orientation posters. We have brochures. We have business cards. We have event flyers on here. We're going to be doing Dr. Denise is doing a girls' night out, and she's really excited about it, but we're using this event flyer to create that. So there's just tons of resources on here, and I want to make sure that I leave time for questions, but we have the letter that we send out to MDs with the wellness score after 8 weeks to wellness. We have the referral pads. We have testimonials. So we have the PDFs of testimonials that you can use if you need a testimonial in your marketing. We also provided our marketing plan. We have a great marketing plan for 2013, and many of you, not only do you not have a marketing person, but you don't even have a marketing plan. And so when I talk to you about how you get new patients, it's kind of fly by the seat of your pants. And so I always think that, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So if you're complaining about new patients and you don't have a way to get new patients, then that potentially is a problem. And kind of back to, I just want to cover this real quick because I didn't really even get a chance to pull this up. But I created a flow sheet real quick. I want to go over this with you. Let me just start this from the beginning. I created a flow sheet, and I want to get right to it, of how to get more new patients. It's very, very simple, and I think many of you are overcomplicating this. But let me just pull up the slide that I want to get to here. And by the way, we talked about $1 million practice. Here it is, guys. I've already done the math. You need to see 28 new patients a month. You need to collect on average $50, and you need to see a patient 60 times. And that's $1 million practice. So that may be a goal that you want to have. We always talk about our model, and I think Trent really hit on this, and so did Jim, of attracting believers. Your believers are what type of a new patient, ideal new patient do you want, but also what type of a staff member do you want? If you have somebody who's not engaged in the process and you've tried to engage them, it may be, and we've had to do this in our practice many times, it may be the time to, allow them an opportunity to leave and find something that they are passionate about. We talk about this slide, and this slide I'm not going to beat on the drum, but remember metabolic syndrome is huge. The EPIC study is exactly what 8 weeks to wellness addresses. But I want to go over this real quick, the new patient flow. Your objective needs to be to find new 8 weeks to wellness patients. And how are we doing that? We're doing that through our wellness talks in our community, and we're also doing that through the internal referrals of people that complete the program. So our goal is to get somebody to come to a new patient evaluation. That's why we offer the $20 offer. That's why we've experimented with Groupon. We want them to get into our office, to meet our awesome staff, to see our office, and also to get a wellness score so that they can see the need for care. I personally, guys, I don't know about you, but when I sit down with somebody's wellness score, it's game over. I know they need the program. You want to talk about value, it's right there in black and white, but not black and white, green, yellow, and red. So make sure if you don't know how to use that wellness score and communicate around it, people cannot bullshit on their physiology. They can tell you, I don't believe in chiropractic, I don't believe in chiropractic for general health, but they cannot refute their own physiology. So I hope you're using that as leverage and also showing people before and afters of 8 weeks to wellness people that you've had graduate the program who've done really, really well. So our goal is always, like I said, twofold. Either get them to the orientation and get them to see what they're investing in. Some people that call, when you tell them it's $2,800, they have no idea of what the value that they're paying for. So our goal is always to either get them to the orientation or get them into our office to meet us to get their wellness score done. So I want everybody really to stop overcomplicating that. So I just wanted to show you that slide. All right. So that's some of the marketing. I want to leave time at the end for some questions, guys. Let me just see if there's anything else. Please know that in the additional resources in the What's New, we're constantly adding stuff. So one of you asked me the other day for the wellness wall, you know, the PDF that we use in our office, it's right here. One of you asked me, how do I get it? Well, guess what? There's an order form on how to order the wellness wall. This is the metabolic syndrome poster that we have hanging up in our exam room. So there's a lot of additional resources. If we have something new, like that membership brochure, we'll put it into the what's new category until it finds a home. So that will then be transferred to probably either to the exercise protocols or to the marketing. I also want to touch on the corporate wellness. In this folder, guys, there's tons of resources. Many of you guys do outside talks. Well, we've loaded some of our most popular talks in here that you can do. You know, wellness in the workplace, accelerating student learning through healthy lifestyle choices, some of the more popular talks, the stress talks that we've done. And to that end, what I want to do is just go over this with you. This is what we've worked on, and I'm really excited about this, but this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the webinar, is this is the 8 Weeks to Wellness Corporate Challenge. And many of you have not jumped into the Thursday webinars that Dr. Eric and I and Dr. Brad have been doing to train you up on this, but recognize that this is a huge resource. And again, if you're an 8 Weeks to Wellness distributor, there's no additional cost to use this program. And this is unlocked doors that I just haven't been able to get in. And what I've been doing, and what I suggest you do, is that you guys have a staff meeting around what organizations, what groups, what school districts, what municipalities you guys want to get in, and set a goal. It doesn't take that many. It could be insurance brokers. Maybe you have a couple brokers. If you've been on the line with us, you know there's a website that will list all of the insurance brokers in your area by zip code, and you can target them to set up a meeting with them. And if I were you, I would drop off an HR packet, drop off an 8 Weeks to Wellness Challenge manual. When they see the professional materials that we've created, guys, maybe enroll them in the challenge itself. Say, hey, listen, I'm going to enroll you so you can see the depth of this program, the beauty of the program. And I'm telling you, when I've been doing this, like I told you about the HR director of our school district, I enrolled her in the program. I dropped off an 8 Weeks to Wellness manual, challenge manual, and I also dropped off the HR packet, and boom, she emailed me right back. I didn't have to send her a second email. She emailed me back, this looks awesome. It's exactly what we've been looking for, and I think this would be a perfect fit for our school district. And now I have an appointment to speak with her on Monday, and that could be huge. Just that contact alone could fill us up for the next year. So please, I don't have time in this webinar, but avail yourself. We've created resources. So if you're a doctor, for example, many of you don't know this, but we have a resources tab. And so the employees or the participants of the 8 Weeks to Wellness Challenge won't see this tab, but you will. And so in here we have presentations, okay? So again, if we look at some of these, you know, this is some of the ones that we do. We have put an insurance broker presentation. If you want to go meet with an insurance broker and do a presentation like we've done. If you want to do the Children Health Talk, the Accelerating Student Learning in-Service Talk, it's here. We have a Move Better Talk that's 30 minutes. We have a Think Better. So avail yourself to these resources. You know, many coaches out there, they charge $200 and $300 for these talks, and they're nothing to the quality of the talks that we've put in there. The other thing that we have is, again, we have marketing materials around the 8 Weeks to Wellness Corporate Challenge, and we also have some resources and training videos about the Corporate Challenge as well. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is this users list, is that when you sign up an 8 Weeks to Wellness corporate, let's say you sign up a corporation, you have 100 people in there, you're going to be able to see a list of all the people that are in that corporation that are in the challenge. So, for example, these are all the companies, and I'm just going to pull up one company. This is JKJ. This is an insurance broker that Dr. Eric is taking through the program. And so it literally will bring up all of the emails of the participants in this program and what week they're in. So you can see that everybody's kind of in different weeks, but when you have somebody, for example, like this person, they're still stuck in week 1 of the orientation, you can just click on this and send them an email. Hey, Julie, I noticed that you're still stuck in week 1 of the program. And this is huge in terms of accountability, guys, because the feedback we're getting from HR and from insurance brokers is that these execs want a return on their investment. So when we can build in these accountability tools to say, yeah, not only are you paying for the program, but we can see and you can see exactly who's actually following through with the program. This is a huge feather in our cap. And so again, just kind of to go back to this, I just want to go back to the beginning here and just show you that we basically have the 8 weeks to laid out. I would love for you guys, if you haven't been involved with it, get on one of our support calls. It's way beyond the time that we have here allotted to go through the corporate challenge. But I know many of you are involved in doing talks, and this is going to open some doors. If you haven't been able to get in, it's going to open some doors just being involved in this program. But you can't sell what you don't own. And so I promise you, when you sit down with brokers or sit down with HR directors, they're going to fire questions to you. And if you don't know the answer to those questions, you're going to look like a buffoon. So I promise you, if you sit down and you want to do this and take it seriously, not just to brand it, not just to get out and get new patients, but to truly serve with it and get into a corporation so that you can be the go-to wellness specialist in that corporation and have this awesome Leave Behind program, I would recommend that you invest some time into learning about how this program works. So we have a couple minutes here at the end. I want to open this up, guys. You have a little question box, so I'm going to pull up questions. If you have any questions about what we covered today, or you have any questions about the May 2 day or the quarterly masterminds or really anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. All right. Tim Westlake really liked the dentist comment. That like a dentist that doesn't promote brushing teeth. He really loved that comment. I love that too. Let's see. Can you send me the link to the regular 8WW challenge training on Thursday? Sure. That was Julie. Absolutely, I can. So guys, know that all of these things we do are recorded. So if you can't be on the line for an 8 Weeks to Wellness challenge, recognize that you can still do it. One of the things that we're doing, though, and just so you know, this is the way that it works, is we can see you. We can see if you're going through the videos. We can see if you're going through the weeks. So just like a company can see, we can see if a company and the employees are going through the challenge, we can see if you're going through it. And Dr. Eric and I are very serious. If you don't go through the program, you are not going to be certified as a coach in the 8 Weeks to Wellness Challenge program. So if you don't go through all the weeks and watch the videos and do the homework and try the workouts and go through it like an employee will, we will not allow you to represent this program, at least the corporate program. So I would suggest, if you're interested in, not only do you watch the webinars, the training webinars, but get engaged in actually going through the modules. All right. I don't think we have any other questions. Somebody asked how much was the LabCorp charge. For the 8 Weeks to Wellness blood work, if you're familiar with it, it's $135. So LabCorp is $135 for the 8 Weeks to Wellness. Don't quote me. I don't know what the other cash charges are for the other panels, like the thyroid panel, but they can answer that, or Dr. Eric can answer that question. Dr. Eric is the one that set this account up with LabCorp and is working on that. So if you have any questions about LabCorp, how to get registered, what the cost of the panels are, please direct them to Dr. Eric at 8ww.com. I'll just see. Dr. Nish, you have anything else you want to add?
Just to register for the seminar. So if you go to 8WW for Doctors, before you even log in, on the top of the page is your 2-day workshop link, and there's a button there that will allow you to register your team and your staff. And then on the flyer is the 1-800 number for Homewood Suites. You have to call the hotel and give them promo code 308 to get the discounted rooms. You can't go to the Homewood Suites website and book it that way. But the room only holds 100 people, and so we're going to have to cut it off at that. So we really do need you to register. Our last 2 days, we had a lot of last-minuters. The last one we did in May here, and the room was quite crowded. So we really ask that you get registered as soon as possible.
So again, guys, go to your 8WW for Doctors homepage. You'll see a little tab here that says Information Center, and then click on the 2-day workshops. And then at the bottom of the page, there's a little registration button where you can register. You can register if you're an 8 Weeks to Wellness doctor, and you can also register your staff. Recognize that we're doing breakout sessions. This is really important. Friday afternoon, we're doing a 4-hour breakout session with your trainer. Noah's going to be working with your trainer one-on-one in the fitness center, and Debbie is going to be working with your CAs and staff in our kitchen to really kind of train them up on the program. So this 8 Weeks to Wellness 2-day is not just for you, it's also for your staff. So we finished up right on time, which is absolutely amazing. And I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed the webinar today, and recognize that we'll be doing one in another 3 months. Okay, and I may be asking one of you to be on the webinar with us. So I look forward to that. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to email us. And we'll see you in May if we don't talk to you before then.